All right, it is 17 May 2021. Nothing too crazy going on plumbing wise here. I just had a little predicament and a little bit to solve regarding my water heater. So previously in another video I made, I stated that I'm going to change out my water heater soon. It's still cranking. It's 11 years old. It's original to the home, but it's a 50-gallon electric water heater. It's usually better to jump the gun and replace it before it starts to leak, because tanked heaters will fail and water goes everywhere and then you're in trouble. But then I got to thinking, do I want to go tanked or tankless? Now, a lot of people will say, well, the tanklesses are, a new technology. We're not too sure about them. They've actually been around for quite a while, and they're actually a very great opportunity to increase your efficiency and to potentially save you some money. But there's a lot of pros and cons to each side, and there's a lot of things I had to consider, and so I'm just going to kind of run you guys through what I had to consider. So my home is electric only. I do not have natural gas, propane. No other form of energy is provided to my home. So I have a 50-gallon tanked heater that has a breaker inside my garage that is 60 amps. The heater itself only needs somewhere between 40 and 45 amps, so that's plenty. I was interested in seeing what I could do as far as attempting to upgrade my breaker, because my breaker is about 200 amp for the entire thing. So a tankless, typically they need anywhere from about 80 to 100 up to 150 or more amps to operate properly. This is an issue for me because my breaker is obviously too small, and also it would be necessary for me to increase the wire size, the gauge of the wire running from the breaker to my utility closet. This would be necessary in order to run a tankless properly and not be tripping the breaker all the time. A lot of my friends, families, customers, a lot of people that are talking about tanklesses go, oh, well, tanklesses are great because they're instantaneous hot water. Well, unfortunately, there's a huge misunderstanding when people think about instantaneous hot water. That typically, to most people, means that when they turn on their fixture, it will come out hot almost immediately. That's not the case for a tankless heater. That's not going to happen when you put in a tankless. It's the same general idea as a tanked heater, but the tankless heats it on demand. That's where the instantaneous part comes in. It's heating it to the temperature you desire or you set it at, based on what your temperature differential is when it enters the home. So if it enters the home at 50 degrees, you set it at 120, it has a temperature differential of 70 degrees. That's what it heats to. For a tanked heater, it has a thermostat and it will heat to your desired temperature setting, but it keeps a reservoir of hot water. So it doesn't need to have such a high energy usage in order to provide you with that amount of hot water. That's not the case for the tankless. So the other thing I want to point out is the fact that a tanked and a tankless heat basically the same. The tankless just uses more, right? But what happens is when the water leaves your tank or tankless unit and it enters the pipes and it comes to your fixture, it's going to take roughly about the same amount of time, give or take a second. It's not going to be instantaneous if you put in a tankless heater. It will be endless. When you install a tankless heater, they will continue to heat until you shut the water off. The water will be hot for as long as you desire, as long as the unit is capable of providing enough hot water for as many fixtures as you have open, which I will address further on in the video here. A tanked heater will eventually run out of hot water. There's a finite amount that a tanked heater will heat. It will eventually stop heating the water as quickly as you are using it. So it's still going to heat and heat and heat and attempt to keep the hot water in the tank above or at the desired setting temperature, but eventually it's not gonna be able to keep up. Now the thing is that most tanked heaters are significantly cheaper to install than their tankless counterparts. Tankless units are more expensive to install, typically because the unit's more expensive. You have to upgrade, you have to run new lines, whether that be gas or electric. In my case, it'd be electric. In most instances that I've been on, a tanked heater is already installed, and it's a very cheap, quick swap out of a tanked heater. They're typically less than $1,000, and a 40 or 50 gallon, which are the most common, typically will do for a medium to large size family. I have a 50 gallon. It's for 2 occupants, but I do have what I would consider a soaking tub that makes it necessary to have the 50 gallons, because if I just had a regular 40, which would more than be enough for me and my occupants in the home, it's better to have a 50 gallon, because then you can fill that entire bathtub and not run out of hot water. The tanked heater, the efficiency is a crucial part of the reason why I encourage people to go tankless if it's possible and if it makes sense. If you think about it, a tanked heater has a reservoir of water that's constantly heating and cooling and heating and cooling. So it kicks it on and it heats to your desired temperature and then kicks off, and then it loses that energy. It's going to heat 24/7, 365 at 3 in the morning, 3 in the afternoon, Christmas Day, your birthday, Thanksgiving, doesn't matter. It's going to heat all the time in the off chance that you need hot water. That is wasteful, and the efficiency is typically pretty low. With a tankless, it sits on the wall and it will not heat unless you draw hot water. And where you gain, so you do use more energy when you use a tankless heater, but you gain the efficiency in that it goes completely plumb off and it will not heat any hot water, any water at all, unless you draw it. So your efficiency is through the roof because of that. Now, one of the other things that is something I had to really consider is my occupancy and fixtures of the home versus the gallons per minute able to be produced by a tankless heater. Tankless heaters that are electric are very low on their gallons per minute. A typical fixture is anywhere from, say, 1 to 3 gallons per minute, depending on if it's a tub spout or a shower or a sink or a toilet or whatever. The gallons per minute for electric heaters is very low. They're typically between 2 and 4 gallons per minute, which isn't very much compared to the gas on the other side of the tankless units. Those can heat anywhere from like 6 to 8 to 10 gallons per minute, which is multiple fixtures, and I would have no problem with filling a bathtub, running my dishwasher while it's filling a bathtub, and I have a guest over taking a shower. It would be no problem for a gas. For electric tankless, it's much more harder on the system, and it wouldn't be able to keep up. So that's a huge part of the reason why you would want to consider tank versus tankless. Mainly with the electric, that's a huge issue. With gas, it's usually not, and you can go natural gas or propane. One of the other things that sometimes people consider is the size of the unit. Tank unit, they're anywhere from, say, like 16, 17 to 30 inches wide if you get bigger heaters, and they're usually anywhere from, say, 48 to 60, 65 inches tall. That's a big unit. It takes up a lot of space. It's extremely heavy, and when they fail, they leak water everywhere and can cause massive damage. With a tankless, the unit's very small. It is typically, about the size of a suitcase or smaller. They're wall hung and they are just up and out of the way. If you maintain them, they typically will last 2 to 3 times as long as your average tanked heater. Tanklesses have a really good reputation as far as how long they last. I personally support a specific tankless brand, which I'm not going to state, but if you guys want to know more about it, you guys can just leave me a comment below. I guess the last and final thing I want to say is I have decided, due to my many topics and points, that I'm going to stick with a tanked heater. I look forward to giving you guys some shots and seeing what I'm going to do with that. My entire house is PEXed in, so I'm going to have to crimp it in place, and we'll talk more about all that. But for now, guys, just, consider your options and really weigh what you think is the best. And when in doubt, ask a professional, and hopefully they can guide you in the right direction. Because in my instance, it doesn't make sense to go tankless. The cost greatly outweighs the efficiency that I would receive, because it's just not gonna ever make up that differential. But everybody's different. It might make sense for you, but this is just electric. Don't think that's for both sides. If you have gas, you might be in better shape to have a tankless. So like I said, just consider your options, guys. Leave me a comment if you have any questions, and I'll get you some shots on to the next one. Here we go.